I'd like to draw your attention to Zulu Warrior, one of the many wonderful people who leaves interesting points on the comments section. And Zulu Warrior points out that two things today. Number one, that Australia was never one of the signatories of the 1951 Refugee Convention. I didn't realise that, actually, and many other countries are rejecting it. I don't think it's possible for Britain to reject it because it was part of the group that defined it and negotiated it in the first place. So it would be very odd for Britain to reject it. I think Britain should be part of the group that redefines it and leads the way in establishing what our approach to migration and refugees should be in the future. The second point that Zulu Warrior makes, and this is absolutely brilliant, and again, I hadn't really thought about this, is the EU did not hold Australia to account about the Australian offshoring of migrants on Christmas Island and so on, because it can't, because the EU is in Northern Europe and is in the Northern Hemisphere, and Australia is in the Southern Hemisphere, an entirely different continent. And although the UN could object, I'm going to quote here, but they couldn't tell a huge continent like Australia what to do, and they still can't, because geographically Australia is in a different hemisphere from European sanctions. Well, this is quite true. And what it means is that on the same issue, if Britain wishes to follow Australia, and Britain is not following Australia exactly, because if Britain was really taking advice from Australia, Suella, Braverman and Priti Patel would have been down to Australia to inspect Christmas Island, and they can't be bothered to get off their backsides and get on a plane and go off to see the real thing working, because they're too lazy. And Suella Braverman, as we know, seems to follow Liz Truss's approach to basic law keeping or law giving, law making. Everything is done by summary rather than by detail. Write that in less than a paragraph. Far too long for me to read. Let's wave my hands around in the air. A hand job is better than actually bothering to read an entire book. So Zulu Warrior is absolutely right. Australia is a different kettle of fish to Britain, and Britain hasn't even bothered to do its homework properly. So if Australia cannot be castigated by the EU, well, Britain definitely can. And so Britain is going to have a ton of bricks thrown on it if it starts to go down the Rwandan route, I am sure. Not only will it have to face the EU sanctions and the EU problems, it will also face UN censure, and I expect that it will face a series of legal challenges which will tie Britain in knots for years. So the nod to Australia is a nod to something that Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Rishi Sunak haven't even bothered to investigate. Zulu Warrior, I am immensely grateful and indebted to your comments and your help and your emails, and greatly appreciate them all. And more the same. Please don't think you have to agree with what I say. I really don't expect anyone to agree with what I say. I expect to be challenged and informed, and it's only that way that we grow.